What is going on, everybody, man? Welcome to the Soul Driven Sports Talk Sports Show. I am your host, Damon Leash, and we're going to talk about the preview of the Cleveland Browns versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I have the pleasure of following both teams, so I'm going to tell y'all exactly how this is going to go. I think Cleveland is going to win this game by a good 6, 7 points. And I'll tell you why. Even with PJ Walker at quarterback. And I do think it's going to be PJ Walker that's going to be the quarterback this coming weekend. Cleveland Browns defense, let me tell y'all what makes them so special. They get pressure on the quarterback without blitzing. And what's so different about their defense compared to a lot of other defenses in the past, we'll take Tampa Bay's great defense, for example. Because the pressure that they used to get with their front four is kind of what I see with the Cleveland Browns. You know, they had Tampa back then, they had Warren Sapp, Booger McFarland, Simeon Rice, and they was just a lot of pressure up the middle. But they played a cover two on the back end. And I think the reason why they played the cover two is because they knew that their defensive front could get pressure and hurry the quarterback. And their hope was that it will cause enough of a hurry to just get turnovers. But I don't think the Cleveland Browns need to play that kind of defense. Because first and foremost, I don't think Tampa Bay's cornerbacks, their corners weren't as good as these three that we see. With MJ Emerson, with Greg Newsome, with Denzel Ward. Those guys are great man-to-man cover corners. I don't think Tampa had that. Tampa had a great center, John Lynch. They had decent cornerbacks, but I don't think their cornerbacks were man-to-man. Well, what makes this defense so dangerous is usually the front four would most defenses apply enough pressure to help the back end. Well, I think this back end really don't need the front four for help. But it's great that they have that front four because the combination of the two, man, it's like your corners don't really have to sit back on the receiver. They can play man press, and the front four get to them. And it's surprising that the Cleveland Browns don't have a lot of turnovers right now, but they're coming. But they don't have them right now, and I think the reason why they don't have them is because they don't play zone. They play man-to-man. So these quarterbacks, man, they miss, but when they miss, they don't miss to, somebody sitting in the background waiting for the ball. And if you see the one catch or interception that MJ Emerson had, it was a bad throw, and it just so happened to fly over and be where he was at, right? But because Cleveland played man-to-man, I don't think that happened too often. Their safeties play the run a lot. Their safeties don't, for the most part, have to help out defending the pass. So you can see them in the box. Del Pitt, man, making tackles in that 8-man front. He'll get up there and he'll close in. He'll see a gap, and his speed allow him to close in very fast and make a play. So this defense is different than anything the Colts have seen in a long time. Okay? Now, what I did notice when the Browns played the Ravens, two things that play in the Ravens' favor. First of all, was that Cleveland's offense, DTR sucked. I mean, they couldn't give them any rest. They couldn't give the Browns defense any rest. You know what I'm saying? And when you feel like you got a quarterback that's playing back there that no matter how well you play, you can't win with that cornerback or that quarterback, then, and that game was over before it started. DTR was talking about he only found out a couple hours before game time that he was going to be the one that's going to be playing quarterback. And so if he finding out 2 hours before the game, you can imagine how much that deflated that defense. So I think the game was over before it started, first and foremost. Second of all, I think the Ravens pose a threat to the Browns that is their weakness. And the Browns defense is very aggressive. I'll compare that front four to killer bees. They swarm like killer bees. That linebacker, flies around, and they got Antoine Walker. They got a nice linebacker core that, get to them gaps, make them tackles, and make plays. But the difference is with Baltimore, they have a running quarterback. So when you have a lineman that every so often over pursue, which Myles Garrett does, which Zadarius does, not a whole lot, but he do. Man, Lamar was burning them. So they were so concerned with Lamar because Lamar he got 2 rushing touchdowns on him, right? So not only, and that makes it hard for the corners because they're playing man to man, so they got to focus on their guy. And here it is, Lamar Jackson running in the secondary. So there's not many teams that got quarterbacks that's like that, right? And I think with Lamar Jackson, being a running quarterback and a lot of misdirection on the Ravens, as far as like, is it a running back that's going to be running or is it Lamar? And having to focus on the two caused the Cleveland Browns a lot of issues, especially with them being aggressive as they are. Fast forward, though, with this Colts team, I think Anthony Richardson would have posed the same problem, but he's out for the year. So with Gardner Minshew, they know that they're just going to focus on Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor. They're going to take away the Indianapolis Colts run. That's not to say that they are going to shut them down, but the focus is going to be on just getting pressure right up the middle. And I think with that front four, they'll be able to do that. And the corners of the Browns won't have trouble covering the wide receivers of the Indianapolis Colts. Because though Michael Pittman Jr. is 6'4", NJ Emerson is what, 6'1", 6'2"? So they have a big corner that they're going to put on Michael Pittman Jr. And Michael Pittman Jr. is a solid receiver, but he's a solid number 2. He's not a solid number 1. Okay? They're going to be able to put Denzel Ward on Josh Downs. That's the rookie wide receiver, man, from North Carolina, playing for the Indianapolis Colts. A really good route runner and with speed. They're going to be able to put either Denzel Ward, if they put Josh Downs on the outside, or Greg Newsome, if they put Josh Downs on the inside. So they're going to be able to cover them Colts wide receivers. And I think that's going to be a big problem. The Colts are going to have big problem scoring the ball, especially if they can't run it. Okay, if they can't get ahead of the sticks, that's going to be an issue for the Colts. Man, Gardner Minshew is not a mobile quarterback, and he's going to be under duress. He's not going to be comfortable with that defensive line and that protection, and it's going to be a long day. Now, we flip it to the other side. The Colts defense isn't a slouch, but If y'all think that Grover Stewart being missing is not going to be a massive hole in the middle of that Colts defense, you guys are gladly or sadly mistaken. Grover Stewart is very, very underrated. And him being gone and the Colts defensive line don't have depth, not the depth that the Cleveland Browns defensive line has. I think Cleveland is going to be able to run the ball on them. And I think as long as PJ Walker don't turn the ball over and give the Colts offense a short field to operate from, it's going to be a long day for the Colts. And if I'm Cleveland, unless Deshaun Watson is 100%, I don't play Deshaun Watson. Even if he 90%, I'm not playing Deshaun Watson. I want Deshaun Watson to be healthy for the end of the year. When the Cleveland is ready to make their playoff push, then at the beginning of the year. Because if he's not 100% and he plays, then when it comes time for the games where they really count, you don't want him at 70%. Not when he's going after all the teams he's facing is going to be good or great. Looking at their schedule right now, I think Cleveland can win these next 3 games without, Deshaun Watson. At worst, they should end up 2-1. Let me tell you their schedule these next 3 games. They got the Colts coming up. They have the Seahawks, which I think is a winnable game. And they also have the Cardinals, which should be a winnable game also. So the only thing the Cleveland Browns need to focus on is just not turning the ball over. And Stefanski, you got to do better at play calling. That play call you had 2nd and goal where you threw the ball and you had him throw the ball into double coverage, we don't need PJ Walker to become Houdini. That's not what they need from a backup quarterback. They just need him to just make plays to keep the chains moving. And do not turn the ball over. If you got to take the sack, take the sack. Punt it. If you have faith in your defense the way that we have faith in that defense, then your goal should be for that deep to put it all on the defense and say, you know what? You guys are the best in the league. And if their offense, we want them to go as far down the field as we need them to go. We'd rather them have to go 75 yards than to go 20 or 30 yards. And that's it. The Pittsburgh game shouldn't have even been a loss. Had they just told Deshaun, you know what, Deshaun, if you don't have a surefire target, get down. Just get down. Take the loss. Their offense is having trouble against our defense. The Browns should have never lost that Pittsburgh game. They should have punted. It should have never been a fumble return for a touchdown. All you have to do is just say, don't turn the ball over. I don't have to make a play. If the play isn't there, take the loss. We'll just punt it away. So I think if Cleveland go ahead with that formula, they should win these next 3 games. But this next game, I think I don't think the Colts got a chance. Unless, the Indianapolis Colts bust off big runs, which I don't think they're going to do against Cleveland because, the Colts passing isn't a threat. If you stop their run, you stop them. You seen with the Jaguars. You know what I'm saying? Indy Minshew had over 300 yards passing. But he will turn that ball over. So you rather turn the Indianapolis Colts into a passing team which if you do that, then that plays in Cleveland's favor. So what I think is going to happen is I think the Colts aren't going to pass as much as they did against the Jaguars. I think they're going to try to attempt to run the ball. But I think in attempting to run the ball, it's going to put them in a lot of third and longs, which works in Cleveland's favor. And I expect Cleveland to come away with at least 6 points or better victory. So y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments, man. I will be doing a preview next week when they play the Seahawks. But see y'all after this win. Before I go, we coming for the Super Bowl. No doubt.